Bristol City podcast. We're recording it on Sunday evening after the lunchtime kickoff at Ashton Gate, where it finished City 0. Sorry, what am I talking about? City 1. I mustn't forget the 1. Norwich City 2. I think that's now just one win in 14 against the Canaries, and the second time they've done us over on our own ground. Joining me, I'm delighted I've got Neil, who's sat with me. So if you're watching this on YouTube, you can see us. We're doing our own version of Saint and Greavesy, not. And then in the little screens at the bottom, Mark Tovey and his Imelda Marcos shoe collection, and Ian with a shirt that is signed shirts in the frame behind Ian. Correct me if I'm wrong with this. It's signed shirts from the City Portsmouth game, April the 20th, 1976. One from each side, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah.
Points for anybody who can tell me who signed the Pompey shirts.
I bet one of them was Owen Hand.
No.
Chris Kamara.
Yeah, Cammy signed one
because he played in that game.
That's why he signed it, Mark.
Yeah, well, as good a reason as any. Yeah, Ian St John was the manager of Portsmouth then as well.
He signed it as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got
two for me.
Anyway,
yeah,
listen, look, when it's a Saturday and there's not a lot to do realise that 118 years ago yesterday, that's December the 2nd, 1905, City beat Burnley 2-0, and that was their 14th win in succession. I don't know whether that's a record that has been beaten, but it was the year they got promoted.
It's still a Football League record held jointly by City, Preston 1950 to 51, and Manchester United the season before City got it in 1904-05.
There you go.
By Manchester City.
Great season that one, the 1904 season.
Yeah, well, it was when we played Burnley. Ashley Barnes was playing from then, so he's had a good one. But no, it's been beaten by Manchester City. It was, I can't remember, was it 17-18 or 18-19? They won 18 consecutive games, but it's a Football League record. It still stands.
Yeah,
but all achieved it as second division clubs. So
there we go. And that season, we actually lost the first game at home to
Manchester United.
We lost 2 games all season. But anyway, we're not here to talk about the past. Neither are we here to sugarcoat this afternoon's action. Was it disappointing? Of course. As I do with you chaps after every game, your thoughts as you walked away from the ground. You first, Ian. Quick 30 seconds on what you saw today.
I was very disappointed. It troubles me that that's 3 consecutive second halves where we've been really poor. Still, you look at the stats of the game, and they're quite good. Dominated possession, shots on target, shots. So, looking at the game, had we taken our chances in the first half when we were good at the end of the first half for about 10 to 15 minutes, I thought we could and should have won the game. But as Mark was saying earlier on before we went live, we can't score goals. And that's something that Liam Manning, I think the only way I can see him fixing it is a tweak in formation or activity in the January window.
Okay. Mark, your thoughts? I mean, that was Norwich's 3rd win in 4. I think they came into this with one of the worst defences in the league, and there was talk that Wagner was going to be on his way out if he'd lost that one.
Yeah, very possibly, but it was a drab game between what looked like 2 mid-table teams, where City's possession football was moaned at by people around me. It was a lack of atmosphere. City really just didn't build on their first half showing. The last 20-25 minutes had a good no tempo in the second half. The lack of goals is worrying. I think it's 6 in the last 8. 3 of those against Middlesbrough. That's why we were in that position and blew it in the end. Two soft goals conceded, but Norwich weren't anything special, and I think that's the worrying thing, that we should have killed them off before that. And we committed the cardinal sin again. Whenever we top the possession stats in a game, we struggle. We struggle to break down teams, but that's because of our poor decision making in the final third and lack of shots.
Yeah. Neil, you had a bit of a melt on WhatsApp when we were communicating after the game. You didn't think it was so bad the first half, yeah? But what are your thoughts now, having calmed down a bit, maybe, or not?
I was just angry. I'm angry about the way that we've conceded those last 4 goals, because the last 4 goals at home all of them have been individually avoidable. And there's this lack of intensity when it comes to defending at the moment. Under Pearson, you know, the one thing that we could say that we did, okay, we didn't create anything, and we'll get to this game and the way in which we seem to be creating more, not taking them, but we seem to be creating more. But defensively wise, we're losing, I would arguably say, losing more of the 50-50s in the physical challenge, the physicality of the game. And individual errors are creeping in. And realistically, before, there was an intensity to the way we actually defended, in the sense that we would defend deep, get the ball, break on it. So it was like defend, break. Now we're seeing examples of us switching off in games, and players switching off. It wasn't just, you know, if we talk about Viner for just 10 seconds before we get into the game. Viner, okay, we'll talk about their winner, but in the first half, long ball over the top, and he just switched off. Ashley Barnes almost scored. About 2 or 3 challenges down the right-hand side. He's going in, trying to make tackles, losing out. They're getting around the back of him. His head isn't in the right place at the moment, I would say. Viner. He's like the Viner of 2-3 years ago at the moment.
Oh, when you say
still a good player. But
when you say head's not being in the right place at the moment, I think that extends to maybe some other players as well, because, you know, just chucking one name in there, Tommy Conway. Ian, back to you for the starting lineup. I mean, sick note Naismith out, so it was logical to bring back Cam at left back. I mean, BBC had it listed as a 3-4-3, and I know formations are fluid, but Pring coming apart, do you think maybe Cornet was worth a start? I mean, he brought Andy Vyman back. Why?
Indeed. On my view on Andy is that he shot his bolt. He did a couple of things that were okay, but it looks to me like Liam Manning needs to sit down with somebody like Brian Tinian, who can tell him where people can play and where they can't play, and what we've tried before. Because with all respect to him, he won't know what we've tried before. And we tried Vyman wide right, we've tried him wide left. The only place he can play is down the middle behind 2 strikers, which is where he was successful when he scored all those goals and got all those assists, when we had Semenyo and Martin up front. And they, between the 3 of them, they created an awful lot of goals for themselves. Now, at that point, we could score goals, but we couldn't defend. So after they left, we went the other way, where I think they got the season the WSM were going, we scored 70 odd. And ever since then, we've got 50 odd. Because you can't sell quality players like Semenyo and not lose out. And that's what we've done. I put a team up on Twitter, or X if you prefer, this week, and it was in a 4-1-3-2 formation, which allowed you to play with the 3 players behind the strikers and play 2. Until he starts doing that, we're not going to start scoring, because none of our strikers are suited to a 1. Knight is trying to get forward and play next to Conway sometimes, and that worked okay sometimes in the second half. But no, I didn't like the lineup. It was, for me, it was more or less 4-4-1-1, with Knight trying to help Conway out, Vyman on the left. Sykes on the left to start with, Vyman on the right where he can't play. Sykes is better on the right, but he put him on the left. And then Sykes moved over to the right and got the cross in for the goal and to create another chance. Then he moved him back to the left again. So I'm sorry, that is something that is avoidable and we shouldn't do it. And he's seen enough of them now to know where they should be best. But once again, I think it'd be a great idea, and I would hope he's done it. Sit down with Brian Tinney and say, well, I'm thinking of trying this. And Brian can say, well, we tried that 10 games ago, Gaffer, and it really didn't work, and it stank a bit, to be honest. So he's got some decisions to make about people out there. I don't think Andy's going to get any better. And I don't think the team will get any better scoring goals until we've got a proper centre forward and somebody playing next to him. That's just my opinion. I might be completely wrong. But when I see Tanner put in some fantastic crosses and whipped across the box, he did the same thing down at Southampton when he was one of our best players. There's nobody in there, hardly.
No.
So
all right.
Unless it's the most perfect cross ever, and it lands on Conway. And at the moment, the way Tom is playing, if it lands on his foot, he's likely to, hit it straight at the keeper, like he did with one in the second half. It was like a pass back when he cut in from the left, when he had that run. So, I don't know where it's lack of form or he needs some company up front, but I don't think you'll see the best of him until he's got a strike partner. Hopefully, Naki in a couple of weeks' time, but we don't know that.
Mark, Neil said some of the players, well, Viner in particular, I said add Conway to that list as well, which picks up on what Ian said. I think somebody said on one of the forums this week, he's missing his flatmate, Alex Scott. But, the team, the squad is threadbare. The team picks itself. Did you expect it to be any different to what it was at the start today?
No, not really. I mean, the Andy Vyman thing is, he's completely wasted there. And just go back to what Ian said, you think Liam Manning, being a details man, would have looked at DVDs or streams of the games. He would have spent time doing that because of the way he's come across and what we know about him. You'd think that he would have looked at quite a few highlights of our games to see where players are playing, where he thinks they could be most effective, as well as talking to the coaches. But it's much of a muchness at the moment because I can't see Harry Cornick starting to doing anything, because when he comes on, he doesn't add a lot except for his long throws. Mehmeti, really, just nothing there.
He's failing every audition, Mark, isn't he?
He can't beat players when he's faced up by defenders. He can't beat them. He needs a few yards of space to run into. You're not going to get that when you're the home team and teams are sat in. He needs the space to run into, and he's not always going to get that. It's got to be pass and move. But there's not, with the players available, there's not a lot he can do at the moment, is there? There's not a lot he can change, but it's just that lack of tempo, because it looked very good for 20 minutes, 25 minutes in the first half. We just didn't see that repeated in the second half at all.
No.
Although, Norwich sat in, but you've got to move them around. You've got to do something a bit different. Players like Cam Pring, you want him getting to the byline. He didn't push the ball on, try and take defenders on. Just somebody, dribble into the area, invite a tackle. You could get a penalty. You don't know. Just to play a 1-2, have a go. Be a bit braver. They did that in the first half, not at all in the second.
Yeah. I mean, I thought the first half was not unlike the Borough game, other than the fact we got just the one goal, not the two. I mean, there were chances, and let's get into the action. Neil, Taylor Gardner-Hickman, he was shaping to shoot in the same position he did against Borough. That was a good effort and a decent save. How did you rate his performance overall today, TGH?
I thought he was good in the middle of the park. I mean, it goes, some of the substitutions I just don't quite get. But from where I was over in the lower Lansdowne today, was Thomas Sally's operation. So even though he wasn't there today, I swapped from a Dolman. So I was in row 8, so I was quite close compared to row 32, where I'm normally up in the gods. And just watching it sort of close up, what struck me is we got right-footed players playing on the left-footed players playing on the right. The whole body shape of them the whole time is basically, we're going to come inside. It became obvious the whole time we were going to come inside. And we had some nice movement off, some nice triangles that we were running that enabled us to get into the middle, and Sykes had an early chance, like you said, and Gardner-Hickman did a nice shot and everything like that. but it was too predictable.
Yeah.
And also people's shapes were,
Well, their body
were out.
position, because with
The whole-
Sykes
their
being
body
right-footed,
positions,
a couple of times he let the ball run out, and it was just that he was. But this was done to accommodate bloody Andy Vyman, who did do the assist.
Well, he
to the
took
assist.
Bell out, didn't he?
He swapped. He took. But yeah, but he swapped. We had our best football, as Ian said, when Sykes played for a section of the game on that right-hand side.
Well, we scored the goal, didn't we?
Yeah.
2 minutes after he put him on his right side, suddenly he's about the only time we get to the byline, and he whips the cross in and forces the keeper to parry out, leading to the goal. But today it was like, I don't know whether he's been thinking, right, well, what I'll do is I'll put these players in and they can come inside, because he did the same thing with Mehmeti in the second half. You know, when he came on, played him on the right. Well, he's all left foot. So you're not going to get any width or anything there at all. And it was all congested down the middle. And I think he made it
he's
far
absolutely
too
right.
easy.
He's Mehmeti, forgive me, Mehmeti is right-footed, isn't he, Ian? Because he played him on the
Yeah.
played on the left. He's right-footed. His normal problem is that he tries to come back inside onto his right foot, and he gets caught in possession like he did against Southampton.
Last game against Borough, when you saw him dribbling forward, Mark, it was left, and then he shot with his left.
Oh, right. But from what I see, he normally favours his right foot. He's played on the left.
I get it. It's just, Mehmeti is a wide player, isn't he? You don't want him coming inside. Yeah. You've already got Knight playing inside, and you've got other players playing inside. You want to create the width. And when we're playing with...
In fairness, Neil, that's been a problem for a long time. That wasn't just today. I mean, Mehmeti normally lines up on the left, you're right, but he is right-footed, and he comes in on his right too much, and that makes us narrow. So it's the same as having Sykes on the left. Sykes is naturally right-footed, so put him on the left is, I know what they're looking for him to cut in and shoot, and he did that once or twice. But that's not a good enough reason for putting him over there. And then you finish up. Campering doesn't get forward as much as he used to. And so you then miss out on crosses, albeit over the 90 minutes, we put in 10 more crosses than Norwich. And we also played more than double the passes forward. And that's a stat I honestly can't believe, but it is a stat. We played forward 363 times. And they pass forward 188. But I think to be honest, we're more effective than ours.
Yeah. Okay. I want to stick with you, Ian, and we like to include what people are saying on the chat that we can see here on the platform. Ben Parker, Ian, just deal with this one. Too much talk about formation. Going two up top may solve one problem, but could easily create more problems. How does it look out of possession? Where does the width come from? Ian, do you want to pick that up?
The width comes from the players that you play wide if you've got two up top. So in the team that I suggested or thought might be an idea to give us more up top, Sykes remember the attacking bit was a 3-2. So Sykes was wide on the left, Knight was wide or the wider player on the left of that, which is where he played a lot second half today. And in the middle was Taylor Gardner-Hickman because of his height, his tackling, and he can break up play and shoot. So, and the two up front were Cornick and Conway. So that way you've got a 5-man press and you've got the width of those two players. Now, Knight plays in that position for the Republic of Ireland. Now, I know they haven't been wildly successful, the Republic of Ireland. That's why they're changing their manager. But... there's another comment on there from somebody saying, well, I don't think the players are good enough. Well, you're probably right. But at the moment, Liam Manning can't change the players unless we've got some guys that are red hot in the academy or he knows some really good free agents. He's stuck with what he's got until January the 1st. So
and by then
that's how you solve your width. And the other way you get your width is with those three there in the two up top holding the ball up in the final third. It gives you the ability to get your fullbacks up round the outside, Campering and George Tanner. So, and we know that on a good day, they can both cross the ball. And I don't think that would be an out-the-way thing to do. And I think you'd see a much better Tommy Conway and a much better Harry Cornick. Until such time as in January, we might be able to go out and get a 9 who can hold the ball up on his chest or in the air, get flick-ons, and then you can put any of our strikers next to that player. But none of them are that player, and they're just not. They're not physically up to it.
And that's a problem that has been there all season. We've got 6 forwards, but too much of the same. Mark, let's get back into get into more of the action. I thought a good player for them was the midfielder Sara. He set up that chance that Ashley Barnes plays over the top, and then we forgot to mention Hernandez cracked a shot against the post. But Mark, the goal on 34 minutes, it was originated by Knight, who fed Vyman. Take us through the goal as you saw it.
Well, I just know that it was a couple of passes, and it was played out to Mark Sykes, who played a great ball. I think it was a cross-come shot that Gunn got down to his right, and he pushed it out. And Knight was following in, and what he did was he kept his knee over the ball and hit the ball down as he hit through the ball. So he kept the ball low. And I think Tommy Conway was on the line and jumped out of the way. He wouldn't have been offside. But yeah, it was a great finish because we had a player coming in to pick up the loose ball, and the technique was fantastic. Yeah. Hit down through the ball, straight as a die, right into the far corner. Yeah. So yeah,
you said that about Tommy Conway, Mark. I noticed that. So he was, because he's on he was behind the goal line as I saw it in the replay, behind the goal line when the ball was struck. So is he?
Yeah, he was.
Would he have been offside if he was standing on the field of play?
I think he wouldn't. I don't think he would have been. He was offside in that phase of play. If he'd have touched the ball in, then he may have been offside. If there was no other player goal side, but it wouldn't have been another player goal side unless there'd been another player on the line. So that would have complicated it. But no, he didn't touch the ball. He wasn't interfering with play. So it's a goal. But great finish by Jason Knight, because we don't see that enough. We don't see players picking up those loose balls and being a fox in the box. That's what we lack sometimes. I mean, going back to Andy Vyman, that's what he did a lot of. Just picking those loose balls up in the box and whacking them in. He buried it.
I mean, that goal, I think we were worthy of the lead, although we've just described earlier the Hernandez post and Barnes shooting over. But just after the goal, Neil, Sykes, again, provider for Conway. That's 3 1-on-1s he's had now in 8 days, because he had one against Borough, that one. Bought a save from the goalkeeper, but would we be expecting more?
Well, there was a chance beforehand as well, a couple of minutes beforehand, when he got through on the left-hand side and he looked up, saw that there was nothing on, drove towards the box. And he had Duffy in front of him, who's
a bit of a man mountain, isn't he?
Who is a man mountain, but still. And he literally side-footed past it to Gunn from the edge of the box. And I remember. And I turned to my wife at the time and I just went, he's so lacking in confidence in that moment. You could just see he's through, he's attacking, he passes. But then straight after, what he did, to his credit, beautiful run that Sykes, I've seen it back, beautiful run in there. Again, it's just the composure in that situation. Because arguably, he's running there, you open up your body, you're on your left foot, and you shoot with your left rather than with your right. You go with your right. You've got to go near post rather than across, because otherwise Gunn's a big keeper and he's going to cover it. But the annoying thing about Conway at the moment is he's actually getting in the positions. And if you were managing him and you were looking at his body language, you'd be saying, but even the one that Ian alluded to in the second half, he is getting in the positions. It's just in those positions, he just looks shorn of confidence. But
those three that he's, in inverted commas, missed this week. I mean, on another, is that confidence, or it just shows the fine margins? Because in another day, he could have got 3 goals in a week, and then you're talking about a saleable asset come January. Whereas at the moment,
but he misses it, and the pressure comes on us.
And the pressure comes on because it stays at 1-0.
I'd look at his body language. I don't think he likes playing up top by himself. I think in his body language, I don't know him as a person, but maybe he's quite quiet, quite a shy person or whatever. But naturally, if you're at there and you're at the forefront, when he's there by himself, I mean, Ian's obviously spoken in depth in the past about him playing alongside somebody, maybe someone like Naki alongside him, almost to, be mentally the stronger person in that situation, because he doesn't look strong mentally at the moment. He's making the runs, he's on the pitch, he's a presence, he's getting the opportunities, but mentally in front of goal at the moment, he's not there, is he? He's not there.
Ian, I'm sure you want to add to that as well, but also Jason Knight, what a performance from him just after that save from Conway. For a little bloke, he gets in a few headers. That one was tipped over the top by is Andy Gunn, son of Bryn, the former goalkeeper. Is that right? Angus Gunn. But talk about Conway, this confidence thing, because I said 3 chances this week. He's a hero if he converts all 3, and they're not like blazing over an open goal, because I think 3 good saves from the goalkeeper in the one-on-ones, or am I being too generous with praise there?
Well, there's 2 elements. One is it's how well he finishes and how well the goalkeeper does, and I don't think the goalkeeper had a lot to do, really. I mean, he just came out and Tommy hit him with the ball. It wasn't like he had to dive or stretch or anything like that. I think he's lacking confidence, and as I said earlier on, all of our strikers are better in a 2, and the best 2 that we've got, all things being equal, form, fitness, and all the rest of it, are Wells and Conway. And bearing in mind that either of those could play next to I'll say a target man, but when I say that, I don't mean a head on a stick. I mean someone who's big, physically strong, and can hold the ball up when centre halves try and come through him from behind on the ground or in the air. Now, we don't lose out a lot because of our lack of height and physicality. You can tell that from how well we defend set pieces in corners most of the time. But we think that's one area we seriously lose out in, is retaining the ball to build pressure in the final third and to be able to play some forwards. But no doubt there's some talent there, but there's a real you go through all the players up front and there's a real lack of physicality. They're not going to frighten you physically. They might frighten you with their pace, but I wouldn't be too worried about that, because if you go into a low block, we can't play the ball in behind, which makes people like Sam Bell and Anis Mehmeti quite ineffective. And to a degree, Tommy as well. So none of that's changed since, and I wouldn't expect it to in 4 games. And I don't think, to be honest, Liam Manning is going to be able to change it until he's had 2 windows. So hang on, we've got a screen freeze here, haven't we?
Yeah,
Dave?
either that or they're in cryogenic suspension. Oh, you're back.
Yeah, we're back in the room.
Right then. I mean, just a point that's been well made on here by Benny. Regardless of the result, that was boring to watch, and the atmosphere reflects what we watch on the pitch. Very predictable. Couldn't agree more. It was boring. And I'm surprised at the stats, how many shots we had on target, because I couldn't remember that many. And it is a bit sideways backwards, sideways forward. That's the way possession football works. When you've got all the managers doing the same, they kind of counteract each other, don't they?
Yeah.
So we need to raise the excitement levels, because you can talk all you like about singing sections and all the rest of it. You'd have to be a little bit deranged to find that an exciting game to sing and shout and cheer about. Because
second half, most definitely.
Second half, I could have fallen asleep.
Yeah,
that was just.
It's funny because my friend Paul did.
Easily done. Easily done. Let's get into the second half.
He was working till midnight last night.
We're winning. We go in at half time winning 1-0. We've done that. We've been in front against Borough, and then we've done a damn good first half performance against Southampton. Didn't get the goal that performance deserved. only got the one goal, could easily have been two like it was against Borough. Mark, were you having some trepidation about the start of the second half? Because if you take the two Middlesbrough goals and the Southampton one, first 10 minutes, we're not quick enough out of the blocks, are we? It seems as though we put that right, although the goal came 15 minutes after the restart, the equaliser.
Yeah, well, it's just down to discipline, isn't it? I mean, the manager won't tell the players to drop their tempo, so I don't know what's going on there really. I don't know if Norwich did a lot different than they did in the first half, but they forced quite a few corners. I remember at the start of the second half that we defended quite easily, and throughout the game they didn't really offer any clear-cut shooting opportunities after those early ones. That early chance for Barnes that was offside, and a Hernandez cross shot that hit the inside of the post that came out. So yeah, we always worry when we're Bristol City because we dropped. There's two games we lost 3-2 at home and to Stoke and blew a 2-goal lead against Middlesbrough. So you're always going to be concerned, whatever the score is. But yeah, it's just that lack of tempo that we had because we started the game poorly and we built up really good tempo. We passed the ball around really well for the second half of the first half. I mean, you wanted to see that continue,
and it didn't.
That was a disappointment.
It didn't. I mean, Neil, looking at the equalising goal, that's Savour again. I've seen the replay a couple of times from behind the goal, and he's got bags of space out there. And Matty James, who ever dependable in midfield, but not having any pace, he goes to make a step forward to Savour, but Sara's released the ball to that far side. So again, taking an individual player and your thoughts on the goal. How do you rate Matty James today? And should we have done better with that goal, or was it just unfortunate that it hit Tanner? Because Max looked like he had it covered, didn't he?
Well, I think there's two questions there. Two questions there. Matty James today looked comfortable, but then everybody looked comfortable. As soon as they got this goal, they just sat back and they were setting in for the 1-1.
Yeah.
They would have been happy with the 1-1. They didn't really. Yeah. When they were breaking on us, there was 3 of them that were breaking on us. And I was looking back, and the other 8 are still, around their 18-yard box. They were not adventurous once they got the equaliser. So Matty James overall, very comfortable game, but he was never really pressurised during the game. He was allowed to, deliver without being particularly incisive. One thing that teams do with Tanner is they target him on a diagonal. If you watch last couple of years with him, it's the ball over the top. Sometimes he'll get a head on it, right? Sometimes it'll float, but they know he's susceptible to a diagonal ball over the top of him. Okay, so that's what teams do. You watch the next few home games, they will target George Tanner. We know what George Tanner is about because Pearson obviously went out and bought McCrory to replace him. Yeah. And it's unfortunate that McCrory has been injured. And so it's like, otherwise, he knows his limitations. He's very gamey. Tries his best and all the rest of it, but he's limited. In that situation there, for me, going to the goal, I think he sticks out foot without any conviction there. Really. Maybe that's being harsh. Maybe that's being overcritical. But guy comes in there, you get caught in a Netherland there, don't you, really? Yeah. You either, are you putting the press on him or are you sitting back? He didn't do either or. And when the cross came in, he just limply, he didn't really go for it with his body, didn't throw himself Thomas Callis-wise in front of the ball, try to block it or anything like that. He just stuck out a bit of a limp foot in it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree.
It's the kind of thing you see in junior football.
Yeah, it wasn't great. Ian, one of the comments on here, we love comments like this. We're being called deluded fans by Henry. He says the manager is playing people to impose his style. As an armchair fan, well, I was actually there. You cannot know more than a manager. Never said that. Saying that we should tell manager to watch the videos is hilarious. It's not a case of telling him to watch them. I'm sure he has done, yeah. But are we deluded, Ian? I don't think we are.
Liam Manning in most of his press conferences has talked about the time the players spend watching videos. because he shows them things like shape, balance. So the part of their training during the week will be in that room they've got where they all sit down there and they show them a video. And all the top teams do that. I mean, Terry Venables was doing it with the England squad before Euro '96. As Gary Neville said when he was speaking about him last week. You know, show for weeks he was showing the England team videos of Holland and how they played, and they said, "Well, what are you showing this for?" He said, "Because if we do well, we'll be playing them, and we've got to beat them." And lo and behold, it was one of the best games of that tournament. With Gary Neville talking about how Venables had him playing 4 different positions in 4 different games, slightly different, but different. So I understand what Henry is trying to say, but if you, what I said was he needed to talk to somebody who'd watched Bristol City a lot longer than him, i.e. somebody like Brian Tinian, who's seen us play this season. He's seen what we've tried and he's seen what works. More importantly, he's seen what doesn't. So he's also saying they play wingers more centrally as 3 number 10s more centrally and use the wing backs as wing backs. Just basics. I don't really understand what you're saying there.
No.
The full backs can get forward up the outside in a 4, right? If they play in a 3, then your players are pushed further forward and can become wing backs. But Neil's point about they target Tanner with the diagonal, they target both our full backs. They were putting it over Campring for a pastime against Borough. So this is exactly the same. Now on that goal, it's rotten bad luck, isn't it? The winger gets the ball, he smashes it as hard as he can. George Tanner sticks a leg out. Now, if he doesn't stick his leg out, it probably goes across the goal. And they had players in goal who may have put it in the net, or one of our defenders might have kicked it away. Who knows? But it just finished up in the net. And that is, you know, you see that in the Premier League every week. A defender sticks out a leg trying to stop a cross, and he just doesn't quite get there. It goes off his studs and flies in the net. And
okay, Mark.
The thing about limited ability, the people in the squad of limited ability, you could say that about the entire squad. I don't know anybody in there who I look at and think, blimey, he's the finished article, and he's brilliant.
Well, I think that's a bit harsh there, Ian. I mean, I would say if you go through the team, consistent performers this season have been Rob Dickey and definitely Jason Knight, in my view. But let's come on to the additional players. Mark,
yeah, but I'm talking about the squad, Dave. That's 2 players.
Squad. Yeah, well, they're 2 players that are accomplished, in my view. I mean, one of those 2 will be player of the season if they carry on the way they're going. Mark, the substitutions, there were 3 stoppages in the second half. The first was it 4? No, 3. That's right. Bell for Sykes. I mean, Vyman was having a nightmare. He came off 15 minutes later. Tanner, I know Ian said he got in some good positions with crossing. Neil said he was targeted by them. I thought he was having a mare and shot to confidence. You know, he just didn't seem comfortable on the ball. Were you happy with the substitutes and the timing of them, Mark?
Yeah, nothing wrong about the timing, but you've got to play with what you got. I'm not sure I'd have taken Mark Sykes off because he looks effective in a forward role, and he normally gets shots on target, or he can play a good ball, like the one he played for Conway. That's a lovely ball down the side for Tommy. But yeah, I mean, I don't think Harry Cornick is adding anything to us at all. And Mehmeti, he looks scared. He looks scared of taking a player on. When he's faced up by a defender, he's looking to play the ball back. He really needs 5 yards to run into, and he's not going to get that. He's just not going to get that space to run into. But he didn't. I mean, very rarely did he try and take his man on the outside, and he was playing on the right side. So, oh dear, I think he's running out of time. I'd like to see him traded.
I mean, Mark, I think one of the things when they made that first substitution, I thought Tanner was poor. I always take the view that Mark Sykes does a decent job at right back. So you could have put Mark Sykes back there and kept him on the
Well,
pitch.
they were playing a free, wouldn't they? So he would have either played right wing back, but he was playing it on the right side, or he was playing one side in the 4 anyway. So if you'd have replaced Tanner, he'd have played in the back 3, wouldn't he?
Would he?
Oh no, he
It's
wouldn't. He
all
would have
right,
played. Sorry, no, he was. No,
He was
of
playing
course he
right.
would have
No,
played.
he
You would
could
have played on the
slotted
right
Sykes
side of the
in
4.
there,
My
getting
apologies.
on
Yeah,
midfield,
I forgot
and
Tanner was playing on the 4. He wasn't playing right back. My apologies.
Just, I mean, we played 4 at the back today. I was looking along the line from the Dolman stand. We were playing 4 at the back. This 3-4-3 is absolute bull, because I think they picked up from what we did at Southampton. When we did genuinely play 3, because we had Naismith as a third centre back. Sykes was knackered when he come off the field, because he come off Dolman's side and he was gone. I'll tell you that now. He was knackered. And there was some talk that he came off at Southampton injured, and I noticed that Viner stretched in the second half and wasn't moving as freely as possibly he should. So keep an eye on those two to see if they're available.
Well, they'll
for
be out
next week.
until They'll be out until the new year, then, based on form. All right, Neil, back to you. We'll wrap the game up here. Back to you. There's 5 minutes added on. I thought the referee today, Gavin Ward, was a right little shit, to be quite honest. There were 4 50-50 challenges or decisions in the opening 10 minutes that I know they give preference to Premiership sides. Well, Norwich ain't that no more, but he puts up 5 minutes. I thought it could have been maybe 6 or 7, but you were sat by me in the second half. I was shuffling off, when I saw 94 minutes, 30 seconds. I thought, right, that's it. I've had enough. Get back to the old cars, get home and have a cup of tea and whatnot. And then they bloody score. That was the goal that incensed you, really, wasn't it? Yeah.
It is. I mean, basically, any of us that have been in football long enough, whether it's coaching or playing or whatever.
Well, I've only watched, and according to some who listen to this podcast, I'm shit at analysis. So I won't say I'm in football. I've watched over not far short of 80 games, but I know shit. But carry on.
So I've done 3 levels of the coaching badges, as well as playing a bit, as well as director of football.
You know far more than me.
No, not at all. Yeah. But Cardinal, I've played centre back. Thomas, who's been on this before, is centre back.
How tall are you?
6'1".
6'1".
Thomas is a SGS under Dave Hockaday. Dave Hockaday there, his key thing is do not let the bloody ball bounce. Attack the ball in the air. Do not let the ball bounce, because the moment you let the ball bounce, the player that's alongside you there, the odds go 50-50 thereafter, don't they? Yeah. That ball is in the air. He's striding across. If you see it. Now, for me, Viner used to do my head in a few years ago. There was always a mistake in him, and sometimes the mistakes in him were lack of concentration, lack of application, and he would be fantastic 98% of the time, but 2 rickets of in it. Today, there were times where he just wasn't switched on. I think out of possession, when we're in possession and we're going forward, I think he switched off.
Yeah.
On occasion, he switched off for the ball over the top that Ashley Barnes went through on first half and should have done better with. He switched off twice down the right hand side where he's a bit casual and got bumped out of the way by Hernandez, who got through, and then the other one where he tried to do a tackle on the right hand side. Very last couple of years with Viner, he's been better.
And you've got to give Pearson credit for that, because he's turned him into a player that was rumoured.
He was a taxi, wasn't he?
Yeah,
he was on the bus.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then he's come back in. Fair play to Viner, and he's got the new 3-year contract. Fair play to him. But that goal incensed me because it was just so avoidable.
Bad. All right,
the ball over the top there, you just attack it. You attack the ball when it's in the air. No. He saunters across, allows the ball to bounce, and then his body shape is completely wrong. The ball's bounced up. He's now sort of like looking over his right shoulder. He doesn't know where the guy is. The guy's come in, physical, Alan Nadar, who's a Republic of International decent player, has come in. taking it off him. Now, I thought at that stage, does he take one? Does
Take him out.
Does he take him out, get a red card, and we don't lose the game?
No.
The cynical element in it for me is, does he do it? But he doesn't. And then he's running back and he must sing. There's a look on his body language. And the body language I remember from Viner a few years ago when he's made it,
They can't get them.
He knows he's made a ricket. You look at it and he's like running back and he's like, I've made a complete and I've ricket it.
Yeah.
And it's 20 seconds before the end. You just attack it. You send it to Rose Ed.
Ian, were you incensed by that goal because it's a soft one and Manning? We're seeing in Viner of old, as Neil's described it.
Well, Zach Viner, I've looked at the replay since I got home, and he gets caught on the wrong side, and the ball goes over him. I mean, something we weren't able to do, whether that was because they defended in such a low block, was get the ball in behind very often. When we get the ball in behind, we can be effective. But we don't get the ball in behind very often. One of the reasons is we haven't got anybody much that can physically go past players. I'm talking about dribble, which is something you'd like to see from Mehmeti or Bell, but they can't do it. And so the ball goes past him. And I agree with Neil. He should have took one for the team. The only problem being it could have possibly been a red because he was the last man. But if he'd have got him
it would have been a red, but
if he'd have got him further up the pitch when they were first together, caught hold of him or something like that. I'm not talking about kicking the bloke up in the air, but caught hold of him and had a struggle with him, shall we say, and he didn't get away. It'd been fine. But once the ball's gone past him, the lad's quicker than he is, and there's only going to be one outcome.
Yeah, and that outcome.
Good finish.
That outcome, it's 2-1 to them. I mean, I was really that is the thing about watching City. They never fail to disappoint. Rarely are we feeling like we did that night when we beat Manchester United 6 bloody years ago. That is nearly now, and they never felt.
Well, just a little bit, Dave. Can I give you a bit of breaking news?
Go
on. This is Brian Tinian. He's leaving Twitter/X. Enjoyed the communication with fans. Be back when we get to the Premier League. Come on, you Reds.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
that's true. No, I'm
right?
Not joking. That's true. I sent him I've replied to it and said why. But yeah, it is true. It's a genuine account.
So he's come off. He's come off Twitter, has he? Yeah.
He is. Yeah. Other people over here saying they replying saying, one person said, "I hope that's your choice and not direction from the club."
Well.
Somebody else has said to him, "Can't take the heat following a bad decision. Bet you'd be staying if Manning had won his first 4. Real shame that no one at this club takes accountability." There's a chap called Owen. So that'll be interesting.
That'll be interesting to watch. That'll be interesting to watch how that one develops. Mark, come on, speak.
Right. Well, while we've been chatting, I've been watching the pass from Kenny McLean several times. Ida is in front of Viner, and the ball goes past. It's like a leg break. So the ball's gone past Viner on the left, and then it breaks to the right, and then Ida's past him. So
he let the ball bounce, Mark. He let the ball bounce.
No, he didn't let the ball bounce because Ida's in front of the ball for the first part of it, so he can't see it. Ida's run across him, and then the ball bounces. He can't get past Ida to get to the ball. So then the ball bounces back across to the right, and Ida's past him. Now he should have been. What he could have done is when the ball's coming, he could have lent on Ida and pushed him over.
You win
before
that
the
first
ball arrives. Before he could have put him down, but he's on the wrong. He's on the wrong. He's on the wrong side. He could have gone through him. He's on the wrong side.
Listeners, viewers, we will all after this. We will.
But it's like a leg. It's like a leg break.
Analysis, and we will pick it up. We'll pick it up. We'll pick it up later. What was I going to say? Bristol City, we never fail to disappoint. And I was thinking, and at 4:45, I'm thinking, great, we're going to go up to 7th. That's really good, and like we're only 2 points off the playoffs then, but then you start looking at it and you think, actually, we're 2 points off 6th, and then 5th is a few points after that, and then 4th is about 11 points ahead of where we are. So we're one of 12 clubs playing for 2 playoff positions, I think. And if we carry on in this era of, Manning, 4 games in charge, 1 win, 1 draw, 2 defeats, we're going to be looking over our shoulder because bloody QPR has started putting a few results together now. I know there's only 2 wins in a row, but it's worrying. Let's pick up on some of the comments here. Mark Chaffee, thoughts on Manning questioning the culture and toughness of the squad in his post-game interview. And somebody's put on here, this is Spudsky on the forum, quoting Manning, "It's a mindset and culture that needs to be changed regarding winning. WTF? Seriously? So Nige hadn't installed that? F off, basically." That's what he's saying.
No, he hadn't.
Right, he hadn't. Well, okay, it doesn't take time to think of answers.
Well, if he instilled a winning culture, we'd have been winning more games, wouldn't we?
All right, but this bloke's not. I mean, right, Neil, are we playing? I thought there were glimmers against Borough, and you could argue the first half against.
I can't believe you. 4 games.
I'm talking about Are we seeing a change? Are we seeing front foot bloody football, tippy tapping around the back?
It's a culture change.
Right.
It's a culture change to the Pearson. On the pitch, where people are saying it's boring, it's a different way of playing. And that can come across as being boring. It's the type of thing where that first half, we're looking at it and 15 minutes in, and 15, 20 minutes in, and then you get to it and you go, stats at half time, 10 shots on goal, 5 on target, these type of things. And you're thinking, that's not the game that I've just sort of seen. And then the Middlesbrough game, 3-2. And you think, oh, great, a 3-2 game. No, there was something a little bit underwhelming about it as a sporting
was as flat as a pancake with a soggy bottom today in the second half.
It was awful.
I can see the movement through the midfield, the way we are passing it, the way that we are getting our forward players in advanced positions, our midfield players rather, in advanced positions in a way in which we weren't getting it with Pearson.
All right.
We are creating chances at the end of the day. We're just not taking them.
All right. Ian, 4 games in, it's 4 points out of 8. 4 points out of 12 on the table. That's right, isn't it? Yeah.
That's right.
We picked up 4. Should we be being concerned at all, or is this, as I've said on the thread that I've put on OTIB, that I have this, we are a work in progress, and we are having, not for the first time, we're letting a manager learn his trade at a higher level, because that's what he is. He's not managed at this level before. We're letting him learn at a higher level at our expense. And by that, I mean, we're paying to watch. But what are your thoughts 4 games in?
My thoughts are the same as they were when he joined. I hope it gets better, because I've been bored to death for the last 2.5 years. I'm sick to death of the injuries. So when he talks about the culture and the winning mentality of the club, last 3 seasons we won 15 games. Right, there's 46 in a season, so that's 31 we didn't win. All we did last season was turn 4 defeats into draws in terms of progress and improvement, and people are doing backflips about that and saying how great it was. Now, unless I've been in a coma for the last 2.5 years, I must have missed some of the games these people watched. It was that brilliant. So it's going to take time, but I think it'll also take transfer windows, because some of the players at the club won't be capable of doing what he wants us to do. And he's right to talk about the culture at the club not being. We haven't got a winning mentality. The last time we had a winning mentality, a little bit under Johnson, with all the money thrown at him and some of the players he had. But I would say Steve Cottrell's team was the last team that had a real winning mentality and looked like they were going to go out and batter teams. So, no, I mean, I we'll have to see. I said I'd first look at what Manning's done after 10 league games and after the first window, because then you've played 5 teams home and away, roughly. You've got a balance of teams, so you'll have played some of the top ones and some of the not so top ones. and you'll have to see how you go. But before today, I mean, we talk about Norwich being an ex-Premier Division side a little while ago, but their form before today, they picked up 4 points out of the last 18 away from home. So it ain't going great guns for them.
No. Well, he was in danger of getting the sack, Wagner. Although that's 3 wins in the last 4 overall, not separating home and away. All right, let's move on.
Sometimes you have to give somebody a bit of a chance. And Nigel Pearson had 2.5 years. Lee Johnson had 4, and we did absolutely nothing. Right?
Well,
or somebody can tell me what we did apart from beating Man United.
Well, we say we finished 8th, but we never really looked like getting the playoffs. And then in the 2017-18, we were about second or
6
third
years ago. Yeah,
in the turn of the year. No, we're just touching on that. And then we had a terrible second half of the season where we couldn't buy a win at home, and we dropped down to 11th from a good position.
Second at New Year, and that was the year when our famous Mr. Ashton said, "Well, we might not be ready just yet," almost as if, well, it's not a big deal if we don't go up. But
who's ready? Luton ready? Who's ready? Barnsley, when they got the playoffs, were they ready?
You go.
I'd rather be there and say let's just take one game at a time.
Now, we're going to talk about a couple of things before we wrap up within the next 10 minutes. I have to say, we used to for a bit. We never do individual player ratings. Now, I really rate, and I know a lot of people do, really rate James Piercy as a local sports journalist. He's one of the few, in fact, he's probably the only one worthy of it.
The editor that does everything.
He is. So he's good lad, but it just shows the folly of doing, or the idiocy, or whatever word you want to put of doing post-match ratings, because I read his marks for the players today, and they were all 6s bar 2 players. And those 2 players were Andy Weimann and Jason Knight. So, I just find that ridiculous. For me, I'd agree 6s, but on that basis, Andy Weimann's a 5 and Jason Knight's an 8. And there we go. We'll leave it at that. Mark, you wanted to bring up, and it's a question for all of you, sin bins in football. And before you say your bit on that, I've read only a little piece on it. And somebody said that when a player does go off, so they're down to 10 for X number of minutes, surely that's going to bring on more defensive football as everybody holds back until that player can come back on. But tell us what you wanted to say about it, Mark, and then I'll see what Neil and Ian want to say as well. Go.
I think it in theory, and what it should do is punish clubs in real time for persistent fouling. Of course, players rack up bans, single game or double game bans, depending on whether they got 5 or 10 yellow cards, or automatic 1-match suspension or 3-match suspension for red cards. But this cumulative fouling, taking one for the team, I think football's just got his head up his own backside. I think there's 2 things really. As well is having sin bins, so you penalise clubs in real time. It wouldn't stop. I wouldn't say Man City or players that good teams will just sit back. They'll just try and play their game. If they can beat the opposition, playing football, they'll still do it. But it needs to be accompanied by stopping the clock as well, because so you don't have subjective time, because it does seem to be a little bit subjective about the amount of time that's added on at the end. The referee can just stop the clock.
Sorry, Mark. They were supposedly going to correct that, and we were going to see extended periods of time added on, and certainly that doesn't seem to have been the case. I
think you do to an extent. You do to an extent. I think it was happening more at the start of the season. I mean, the World Cup, we saw a lot of time added, and there's been time added on for different reasons, but it does seem to have quietened down a bit. Spurs, winning in the 112th minute and things like that. And I think Brighton had a penalty claim in about the 102nd minute today.
Okay.
But I think teams should be penalised in real time for persistent fouling, around the box, because they know they can get away with it. The only way the referee will be respected is if he can actually penalise players, if he has the power to penalise players properly, like they do in rugby. And all this, we're football. It's ridiculous. Look how many years it took for goal line technology or VAR.
I know he did go off I know he did go off injured, but one of their players made a meal of a tackle with his ankle when he went down. I mean, he rolled over about
That was
8 times.
Giannoulis went down, didn't he? I can't
It
remember.
was Giannoulis, was it? Good Greek,
Giannoulis,
good
who-
Greek boy there. Ian,
was
quick word
crossed
from
with
you.
him.
Quick word from you on sin bins. Do you think we'll see it in our level of football within the next 3 years, or just another idea?
I wouldn't like to judge what's going to happen within the next year. Never mind the next 3. I don't think I really like it. If you want to make some improvements, like they're talking about extending VAR when they haven't got it right now.
Well,
So what, you don't go another 3 steps down the road if you're not sure you're going in the right direction. And I think VAR as a system, it's fine. It's the interpretation by people that's wrong. Rugby is a game that stops a lot anyway, and the referee takes says time off, and the clock literally stops and they treat injuries on the field of play with the game going on.
yeah.
Right now, there's lots of things that you can't take from rugby and put them into football. I don't like the idea of a sin bin. I think it's something else for the blooming referee to think about. If they want to do something really sensible and really simple, take timekeeping away from the referee.
Good idea. Proper official timekeeper. Neil, your thoughts on
sin bins, from my non-league hat on for a moment, doing the DOF role. Tool station, county football, sin bins have been around for the last couple of years. Every game says sin bins. It's always for dissent. And I'm pretty sure they're talking about this implementation, not for persistent fouling, but for dissent offences. I mean, if that was the case, Andy Vyman would be off the field half the time, wouldn't he? Really? I mean, when it comes,
He'd have his own he'd have his own detached with a driveway, and
who's this an impression of?
he'd have curtains.
Yeah,
he'd have
watching.
curtains and windows, wouldn't he?
But I'm pretty sure they're talking about the respect element of it, because it's bizarre in local football and non-league football and tool station. Even my subs have to wear these black bibs that say respect on them. The specialist FA respect sort of bibs that we have to wear. And if we don't, we get fined as a club.
But respect comes from, I think respect comes from the fact that if the referee has the powers to penalise players, that's where respect comes in. You know, if they do that, it works both ways, isn't it?
The dissent element of it, at the end of the day. But I think
if it's just going to be for dissent only, that's a waste of time.
All right.
When it comes in, there's going to be people going off all the time and coming on and all the rest of it.
Couple more things to get in. Couple more things to get in.
Then.
We wrap up. I did tweet Wes Burns, Anton Semenyo, Bobby Reid all scoring this weekend. What a goal!
Wes Burns' goal.
What a goal!
Oh my God,
Wes Burns.
Absolutely joyful.
Look, we didn't complain about him when he left. No, but those 3 forwards, it was just a chance to think what might have been. I haven't seen Semenyo's or Bobby Reid's goal yet. Ian, you're old enough to remember, same as me. These other chaps with us today, a little bit younger than we are. But when the FA Cup draw took place at school, it was on a Monday at lunchtime, and I can remember being sat at the back of Miss London's biology class at Nailsea School with the old
not Miss London.
Yeah, Miss London with the old earpiece going in. I heard somebody doing the cup draw at lunchtime who was driving into the game. I thought it was a piss take because it just didn't seem as professional and as respectful like it used to be. But we got West Ham. What's that? Is that? Do you think we'll be troubling the Ballmaster in the 4th round, Ian, or is that just a break from the rigours of league football?
It's away from home, so your money would have to be on West Ham, wouldn't it? Nice stadium for our fans to go to. No doubt City will travel in numbers to go there. I don't know if it'd be one of the games they pick out for television. I think that could depend somewhat on our position in the league and West Ham's. And it depends how strong a team they put out, because they do tend to put out slightly weakened teams in the early rounds of cup competitions, FA, and they've got, let's be honest, they've got big enough squads to do it. So they could easily leave 5 or 6 of their best players out, leave them on the bench, and play the other lads against us and probably still beat us. So, it'd be interesting. And it's, already I know of a large number of people who say that they're going to go up there for the day out, and the rest of it they're all on about going on coaches, not the trains, because they think it'll be earmarked what has left for a strike, which wouldn't surprise me. So yeah, it'd be interesting. I mean, what have we got? We haven't got much chance, but I think Eastleigh turned over Reading, so why can't we go and turn over West Ham?
Yeah.
Do you remember they beat us in the FA Cup in the promotion season, didn't they? And that was on the BBC.
They
If
did
anybody
1-0,
remembers,
wasn't it?
1-0.
1-0.
Yeah. Scored it. It was scored at the Atio end.
Saka.
It was scored.
Yeah.
It was scored in the Atio end, and that was when the end was split between home and away.
And they had their bubble machine there that day as well, didn't they?
Yeah, that was they did this stupid thing with the ball when the ball was going in the south stands, it wasn't completed. You know, they were picturing these workmen fielding the ball. It looked quite comical. But yeah, it's a nice day out. I never went to Upton Park. I wouldn't mind going there. Why not? You know, give us a chance.
I've been a couple of times to Olympic Stadium. Fantastic. And now that Crossrail is there, you go into Paddington, you get straight on the Elizabeth line. And
it's working.
It's all right. Last few times I've been there. 20 minutes. 20 minutes to get to Stratford from Paddington. So if everything's working...
Crossrail, I thought it'd be absolutely livid, to be quite honest.
But yeah, it's really good. No, it's just
that'd be good. That'd be a good trip. I'd go on the coach. Might even try and get on coach 1. Sneak on. I might get a boiled sweet if I'm lucky.
Go on, Ian.
After this trip down memory lane, because I just say there's some people on here have made some I'll call them unkind remarks about Brian Tinian, but just to remember that as head of recruitment, it was Brian that brought in Jason Knight and Rob Dickey.
Yeah.
So saying that he was a crap manager, I think is a little bit unfair.
Didn't he get Antoine Semenyo as well? Wasn't he partly responsible for him?
Yes. So, you know, it's like anything else. Some of the recruitment will be hit, some of it will be missed. That's the nature of it. If it was that easy that you could, you know, everybody you got was a top rate player, then wouldn't that be a great job to have?
Absolutely right.
I think you need to just to put a little bit of balance into the conversation.
On the other thing, picking up on that comment, Ian, you know, I put on OTID this week. I am sick of reading how crap a manager Brian Tinian was. The solitary season he had in charge, right? He missed the playoffs by 1 point, and he had an assistant manager called Keith Millen, who was on the staff, and he was made to keep Keith Millen by Mr. Lansdowne. And I'm sure if Brian Tinian had an experienced head alongside him, right, it could have been very different.
The other thing that he had, David.
Start of the following season, Tinian, it didn't go well. They didn't buy well that summer. I think over the first 11 games, they won 1, drew 3, lost 7, and that culminated in that win. But some managers since Tinian have had a lot worse runs than him. So I'm not defending Tinian massively, but let's get the facts right. Look at the one season he had in charge.
Do you remember the other thing that he had? At the end of that season, Leroy Lita, I think he'd scored a brace or a hat trick at Torquay, and because he mouthed off, I think he got a retrospective ban. So he was missing for the games at the end of that season. So he talked himself into a ban, and I think we lost him and we missed out.
All right. Okay, just to finish from each of you then, start with you, Neil, then you, Ian, and then Mark. 2 games up north, 1 in Lancashire, 1 in Yorkshire. Yeah, is that right? Huddersfield and Blackburn.
Yes.
Huddersfield, a little bit resurgent. Don't know how they got on yesterday, but they did win at Sunderland, and I think they drew against Leicester. Is that right? I think recently. Anyway, but Blackburn, 2 tough games up north, right? It's going to be cold up there. What's your predicted points haul from that little sortie?
I don't know at the moment. I mean, until we start scoring some goals and we're creating the opportunities. I mean, but if we get the focus back, we've got a week now to sit down. Let's sort out these individual areas that have started creeping in at the end of the day, because we're not suddenly a bad team at the end of and creatively, you know, at some stage, hopefully it's going to click. Both are winnable games. Smodix will score.
Yeah,
of course he will. But but other than that, I think they're both winnable.
Okay,
really.
So, what's your prediction for the 2 games?
Well, the daft thing is, Manning today, relating it, he just said, the 3 games we just had, if we'd have got 4 points in these 3 games, that would have been,
because they're tough games.
Tough games. And you're like, Liam, every game in the championship is a tough game.
Yeah.
There are no easy games.
All right.
If you think that we've just had 3 tough games and 4 points will be all right.
Yeah. What's
it's
next?
A slog.
He's a bit naive.
Anybody
I tell you what, don't you think Liam Manning
else
could really do with like an experienced head alongside him, an older statesman, somebody like Nigel Pearson, maybe? Ian, the journey, the 2 journeys north. What you got? What's your prediction?
2 points.
2 draws then.
Yeah, looking at Huddersfield, they played Swansea. They had 23% possession in that game. But they still managed to have 5 shots with 3 on target and force a corner. Swansea had 19 corners to their 1, but still only had 5 shots on target against Huddersfield's 3. So looking at how they line up, it's a 5-4-1. So it'll be interesting. They've got a good centre back in Heelick there, and 2 other spirits guys in Pearson and Lees.
Yeah.
So none of these games are easy. But I would have thought if we could go up there and draw each game, I don't think that'd be too bad. Although obviously I want to go up there and try and win them.
Absolutely, and then that would give us six points from.
If we try and win them both and we finish up drawing, that's fine. But I don't want us going up there and pulling up the drawbridge, because they're not pull up the drawbridge teams. They are beatable, but they're both teams that could be, particularly right. Blackburn. They're teams at home where they score a few goals. They could beat us. But unless we we've got 2 major problems at the moment: injuries and goal scoring, and those are the 2 things we got to focus on and sort out.
Okay. Mark, your thoughts? I mean, Neil's saying these are 2 games that we could win, so he's not really committed himself. Ian said 2 draws, which looks good because it keeps you unbeaten, but then that would mean the first 7 games have produced 7 points for the new manager, hardly the top 6 that our owner's son says that we have a squad capable of achieving that. How do you think it's going to go in Yorkshire and Lancashire in the coming week?
Well, we need to build some form, and if we'd have won today, that would have been our 3rd home win in a row. When have we done that in the last few years? But I think 2 points would be a good return. Huddersfield seem to have turned a corner. They've drawn 2 and won 1 of their last 3 games. Blackburn have won 2 of the last 3, losing 4-2 to Birmingham yesterday. Sammy Smoddick's top goal scorer in the Championship. Possibly didn't get a run of games with us before we sold him to Peterborough. Peterborough got a habit of people might say polishing rough diamonds. Look what they did with Ivan Toney. They recruit well and they sell on for a big profit. So we beaten Blackburn twice in the last two seasons with Andy Vyman's shot a couple of seasons ago, and last season. We won 3-2 we scored some great goals. I think there was one from Andy Vyman from a great team move down the right. I think Naki Wells scored 1 as well, and then there was another one. We looked really good. 3-1. We looked well in control until they scrambled 1. I think a draw would be good there. Blackburn on a Tuesday night, not great. Huddersfield beatable. Last season was a horrible 0-0 draw, if you remember. When one of the early Warnock games, and I think we got kicked. James was kicked, I think by I think it was by Pearson actually earlier on. He could have been sent off for that. Very bad challenge. It's shin level. But will anybody want to win that game if they're playing 5-4-1 and we're a counter-attacking team? They'll just put the ball in the centre spot and wait for somebody to kick it. Will they? Is that what's going to happen?
I think it would be great.
A bit like water polo, they'll swim away from the ball.
I think if we win 1 and lose 1, that would be great. 2 draws, as Ian said.
Well, we don't like bossing possession, do we?
No, I'm just talking about the result. I'm just talking about the results.
Well, I take 2 points. I take 2 points now, but we're capable of beating Huddersfield. Blackburn, I don't think we got as good a side as we've fielded up there the last 2 seasons. But who knows? But we've got to score goals. We've got to start scoring goals.
That is a problem, scoring goals. Okay, everybody, thanks a lot. Those of you that have watched us live on X and on YouTube, touching a record audience for some of the duration. Obviously, people can't stand us for the full hour.
Sorry,
Ian.
Dave. Just a quick point. You're talking about comments. Unless you've got a premium account on X, you're not allowed to put any comments on there while you're watching live. So that's an interesting one. That's something I only found out today.
There you go. All right.
Well, don't criticise Elon Musk, because he'll just give you an earful. I mean, he told all those advertisers where to go this week, didn't he? And they didn't like it. So
all right.
said,
well, look,
we will
be back with our review of the Huddersfield game at 6 o'clock next Saturday. Yeah. So those of you that are tuner-inners will be doing that, and then Blackburn away is on a Tuesday night, isn't it? Yeah. So we'll be doing that one probably at 9 o'clock on the Wednesday morning. But boys have got a week off before the action, starts coming thick and fast. Before we know where we are, well, it'll be 4 games' time. We'll be at the halfway stage of the season, and that 12th position, 11th, 12th, 13th is looking good. If we sort of maintain where we are, if there's any slippage, then I think we're down in the 14th, 15th, 16th. We shall see. Everybody, thanks a lot for listening and all your comments, and we'll see you again soon. All the best. Bye-bye now. Bye-bye.